Today we're looking at the quotient rule, the power rule, the chain rule. Okay, so what we're doing is we're looking at the quotient rule, we're going to look at the power rule and the chain rule. What we're going to do is find the derivative of this rational function here. Okay, so before we get started, let me put up the quotient rule. So let's say this is a function where f of x and g of x are polynomial expressions. Okay, so p of x equals to f of x over g of x. And p prime x, this is the derivative, that equals to, okay, so here's the quotient rule. Okay, so the second goes at the bottom here. We call this the first, this is the second. The second squared is at the bottom, and you have the second at the top times the derivative of the first minus the first times the derivative of the second. Okay, let me repeat that again. The derivative here, the second squared, the second times the derivative of the first minus the first times the derivative of the second. Okay, so using this here, let's look at number one. Number one, f prime of x equals to 4x minus 1 over 3x minus 5. Therefore, the derivative f prime of x equals to, you can put this bottom one, second squared, and we top one here, second, 3x minus 5, times the derivative of the first, which is 4, minus the first, 4x minus 1, times the derivative of the second, which is 3. The second times the derivative of the first minus the first times the derivative of the second over the second squared. And we simplify. So we're going to have 12x minus 20 minus 12x. This is going to be plus 3. All over 3x minus 5, the quantity 3x minus 5 squared. And we're going to cancel this here. Okay. And what we're left with is this one and that one. Combined like terms, negative 17 over 3x minus 5 squared. Okay. So here's the chain rule again. Okay. There's no power rule in here. So let's look at number 2 where we're going to use the power rule. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite number 2. F of x equals to 6x plus 1 over the quantity 2x plus 7 squared. And we're going to use the quotient rule. F prime of x equals to the quantity 2x plus 7 squared squared. Okay. So then this one will be the second, 2x plus 7 squared times the derivative of the first, okay, minus the first times the derivative of the second. So now pay attention to this one here. The derivative of the second. 2 times 2x plus 1, no, 2 times the quantity 2x plus 7, okay, times the inside derivative, that's a chain rule, this is 2, okay. So we have the second times the derivative of the first minus the first times the derivative of the second, okay, this is the chain rule here, all over the bottom squared, which is 2x plus 7 squared. You're going to square that. So I'm going to simplify this one here. 2x plus 7 raised to the 4th power. And you can multiply it out. I'm just going to leave it here. Later on in calculus, you're going to have to keep it in this form anyway, because I'm just going to clean this part, because when you evaluate, this is probably the better way to evaluate. So I'm just going to clean this up here. And I'll write 4 here, 2x plus 7. Okay, and that is f prime of x. And that's the quotient rule, power rule, and the chain rule.